Arsenal finished off their pre-season games with a comfortable win against Lyon at the Emirates. Now, with Arsenal playing a very strong side and looking electric all round, let's go through some of the key points in the game and how Arsenal are ready for the next upcoming season, which looks to be very exciting for the team. So let's get into it. Now, of course, we are only 1 week away from the start of the Premier League season, where Arsenal will play Wolves at home in the opening game. You expect the team to be near enough to the best it's going to be and prepared for this game, so Arsenal ended up playing a very strong team against Lyon, a team where you expect most of them to start next week. It also brought starts for players like Saka and Declan Rice from their comeback from the English tour, and overall I thought we had many key performances and many key ideas where we're going to improve on last season's performances. Now, first of all, we've got to talk about the balance of the side. I think we look much more balanced than a large parts of last season, especially near the end, and even though Saka still got the ball a lot and was still very influential, the reliance of him to get the ball is definitely not as much anymore. Now, we saw the Rice Party Odegaard midfield towards the end of last season and it worked a lot more. It gave Arsenal, I'd say, less control in games because we allowed the other team to have the ball a little bit more, but that was better because it made us better on transition and better going forward with Rice's penetrating runs from that left centre midfield space. And in this game, with the progressive movements from a lot of our midfielders, I felt like Odegaard was drifting more into that left centre half space when he found the space to, and he kept doing them really good passes to Martinelli, who actually got the ball a lot in the first half especially. I also think a major part of this balance was actually down to the defenders as well. Now, it's been very well reported, obviously Ben White inverted a lot of the last season and would also occupy that right half space, being able to put crosses in for deep, which have been quite effective for us in many games. Now, in this game, we actually had Zinchenko do that a lot. He kept coming forward and getting into that left half space and doing really good crosses to even the back post where Saka is, or into the middle where Havertz was lurking. And overall, I thought in the 64 minutes that Zinchenko played, he was utterly brilliant. I think it's one of his best performances, and he has actually proven to everyone that he can be a major part of this team. Now, of course, there is still defensive problems with him. I think he gets caught on his inside too much, but I get it is very hard in that situation. But going forward, he is definitely an asset. 4 chances created in this game. He had 69 touches and 13 passes in the final third. He was so accurate with his passes. His positioning was so good on that left hand side, and it will give us so much more balance having him there working with Martinelli or Trossard or Rice or Marino if he is to sign in that space. And with the constant underlaps and overlaps that Zinchenko and Rice or Marino when he goes there can do, I think it gives us so much more options to get past players and create different problems for the defenders that we're going against. And while we still struggled to score some open play goals in this game, and hopefully that will come more when we get Marino and he's a bit more attacking and a bit more physical there, so it could give us a bit more support in these positions. But overall, you've got to look at the positives. We are still clearly very good at set pieces, and it's going to be a major asset this season. Now, I want to go through the Gabriel goal a little bit because it has remarks of what we did last season, especially from our corners, but there's also some slight changes in there I think that make us a little bit better. Now, in the first goal, it was very different to this goal. It was quite a normal goal. You see a lot of our players sit at the back post and run in when the ball's about to be kicked to give Lyon more problems. But with the second goal, Gabriel is the deepest player, being marked by supposedly the best defender for Lyon that they have in the air. Gabriel makes his iconic back post run, which you've seen him make loads of times, and the ball by Rice is brilliant and goes over the goalkeeper, who should obviously do a lot better. However, this big backspace is afforded to happen, and even Martinelli is behind Gabriel as well with no one marking him, because not all of the Arsenal players actually push up into that front post. With our first goal, we all pushed into the front post and it ended up falling to Saliba, who headed it in. But this time we actually didn't push up that much and left them. Saliba put pressure on the goalkeeper and Partey kept his man with him. This also led Ben White to be on his defender, not obviously on the goalkeeper this time, and he slightly pushes him a little bit forward. Obviously, I think the defender at this point thinks he's man marking him and has him covered, but what this is actually doing is Ben White is creating that space for Gabriel to run in behind, and we know how good his acceleration is and how good he is in the air. He's never going to miss that. But even if he did miss that, Martinelli is right there to pick up the pieces, and you've got 3 or 4 Lyon front post players who are just literally doing nothing. Havertz is just standing there because they're all waiting for us to push that front post, because you see a lot of teams do it. And this little change that can be flicked on and off in a switch, because in the first goal we went front post, is very important, and I think shows another adaptation to our corner tactic, because ultimately it's something you can't defend. You don't know if we're going to do it or not, and it just makes us such a threat from these corners, which I think will continue to be a main part of our Arsenal going into this season. Now, there's a lot of players I think played really well in this game, we've obviously mentioned Zinchenko. Declan Rice's deliveries from corners are just so good still. And I think Thomas Partey actually had a pretty good game. He seemed quite composed back there, and he was pretty good on the ball, which is what you want from him. Now, it was very hot on the day and a lot of players were tiring quite easy. It's still pre-season, I know it's only a week to the games, but this is fine. And we actually have considerable depth now to bring players in. And some of the substitutions that Arteta did, I think, show a little bit of an idea of where he's going to go this season. So I think for the next few games, or at least when we start the season, you'll probably see a midfield of Odegaard, Partey and Rice start. Rice wasn't fully fit in this game, so he actually brought Rice off 64 minutes in and brought Jesus on and moved Havertz into that midfield spot, which worked against Leverkusen. Now, I think this is something we're going to continue to try probably later in games. I think Havertz might start next week, with Jesus coming on for probably Partey in that situation. Obviously, if Marino signs, you won't need to do this as much because you can also bring on Marino or start Marino in that situation. And Calafiori also came on for his debut against Zinchenko, which I will be going into more in another video probably in a few days time. Despite this, I actually think the team is looking really good, and I think that the physical level of our team is so imposing at this point. Obviously, we're expecting to even sign Marino, another physical presence in that midfield, but you just look across our whole team right now, you've got players that can physically win battles at any given moment. When Calafiori came on, there was no one in the defence or the midfield that was going to lose a lot of duels because they're going to be battling, and the physical levels from all of the phases of play is just so important right now, and I'm very important that Arsenal continue to use that to the best of their ability. Now, it is really cool to see people like Ethan Nwaneri still continue to get minutes. I think he's going to be a major part of this season, even if Marino signs, and he will probably get good minutes in the Premier League. I reckon a lot more than you probably would expect. I could definitely see it happening. And people like Reece Nelson came on, where I still think maybe Reece Nelson is going to play a part this season if we can't sell him. Unfortunately, I would like to sign a winger, but we'll see what Arsenal do in the market. And speaking on wingers, on this quick roundup of the match, I just want to have a quick word about Martinelli. Now, he's definitely a player a lot of people are talking about. Got given a start in this game. Obviously, Trossard has played a lot more than him in pre-season, and he looks good. He has that excitability about him, but he just isn't quite working out for him. I kind of agree with the motion that he is trying to force things a little bit too much, putting too much pressure on himself. If he relaxes and let things happen naturally, then he can get into great positions and score goals. It just seems like when he gets into these positions, he puts his head down, he runs, and he's just thinking about certain things like getting a shot away, when you've got to look up and use the team to the best of your ability to create a chance. Now, Martinelli still has great potential. We know how good he is. He was brilliant a few years ago, and I think it's a make or break year if he's going to be a consistent starter for Arsenal in the future after this season. So he just needs to calm down and let it relax. But obviously the season hasn't started yet, so we'll see how it goes and if he'll even start the first game of the season. Thank you guys for watching this quick roundup. I'm going to be doing loads of videos about how I think Arsenal will play going into next season and some of the systemal differences we're going to use with our midfield, because I think our midfield particularly is very interesting, at least to me. But let me know what you guys think about the team right now. Who do you think should start against Wolves, and who have you been most impressed by? I want to get all the predictions down below and continue to do videos this week over this coming season. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.